Hey guys, one cool little tip I have is for fishing a finesse jig. One of my favorite baits in the spring. It catches fish all year in clear water, but really excels in the spring. And this is a Dirty Jigs finesse jig. We see it has a spider cut top on it like that. And a couple of modifications I do it. One thing I really like when the water's cold is a TRD, a Z-Man TRD on the back of it. It really creates no action, and that's the beauty of it. It has a very streamlined profile in the water. It's going to come together, and it's just no action, almost as like the profile of a tube back here. But that spider cut skirt really slows the fall on your jig. Now this one I've cut down a little bit already. I guess to work backwards a little bit, I use a 3/8. 90% of the time I like a 3/8 ounce jig, and I adjust my fall rate based on water temperature though. If we get water in the 40s, I keep that skirt really long. I want my jig to fall slower. So this is almost like a parachute as that jig's sinking. You still have the weight to cast it well, but it slows the fall of the jig down that collar. As I want my jig to sink faster when the water gets warmer, I'll sit here and trim this collar down. And a lot of times I'll even get a smaller profile. I'll trim it all the way almost off. And you get a smaller, very streamlined profile when the water's clear. I'm gonna get my bait down there. But again, it really changes your fall rate, which is so important with this jig, especially in the spring. Fish spend so much time up off the bottom in the spring. That slower fall allows those fish to follow it down and feed on the bait. A lot of times something falling by them fast when the water's cold like that, they don't want to follow the bait back down, and it's more subtle on the bottom too. It's not like it's dragging along, beating every rock and stick it comes to. That right there is a lot more subtle than a big heavy jig, and yet we can really get that slow fall and a very finesse presentation. Again, that TRD in the spring, absolutely deadly. You know, even in dirtier water situations, I really like that profile. It's just streamlined, doesn't have a lot of action, not a lot of bulk, a really subtle jig. Works good in clear water, but also works good in stained water. We used to think of it being a bait that was only good in the Ozarks and those clear water, deep Highland impoundments, but you know, I've seen over the years a lot of guys, myself included, catching fish on this finesse style jig with a do-nothing trailer like that on it, even in water that has some color to it. I throw that jig still on 12 or 15 pound Seaguar Tatsu. Not a real light line presentation. It's a 7-foot heavy Phoenix MBX rod here. So it's not a real finesse presentation as far as my equipment goes, but the actual bait itself, very finesse. Come through the water, gets a lot of cold water bites.